here it is, the Nylint Road Grader from 1956 or 57. This was my dad's toy. He played with it a lot and then passed it on to me. I played with it a lot, and now my son's going to get to play with it after I restore it for a third generation. Well, this toy is considerably less complicated than the Michigan crane that I restored not too long ago. You can find that video on my channel, and I'll link to it here and put a card up here so you can go see that. That one was pretty involved. This one's just a few pieces, the wheels and whatnot, and we're going to take the blade off and then sand her down and repaint it. So all I need is a few different types of pliers to get these wheel caps off. And just like in the Michigan crane video, there's no need to try and save these because you can get these at the hardware store and replace them very easily. And these are pretty rusted, but just work on them and they'll eventually come off. Sometimes you gotta wrestle them off and almost damage them to get them off, which is fine because we can replace these. Okay, for you guys that are having troubles getting these off, if you put your vice grips on like this and squish the bottom ring and then work it around, it'll come off real easy. Now the next thing we're going to do is we're going to take the blade off. It's just held on with this little clip here, which either a needle nose plier or a long flat bladed screwdriver. Again, don't worry about damaging this kind of stuff. This is all replaceable with parts from your local hardware store. Nothing special about this particular clip. Besides, it's half rusted and about broken anyways. Where we are, where you got it all apart. Everything that we're going to take apart is apart, and we're kind of ready to do some preliminary sanding. I think I'm going to dip everything in my rust removal soap, my metal rescue, and make sure your tetanus shots are up to date. As you see, we had a little casualty here. Actually, it's not that bad. I just put Band-Aid on it to keep it from bleeding, but you know, there are a lot of sharp edges on a toy like this, so it is a consideration. You got to be careful. Probably should have been wearing gloves. Alright, I'm going to dip this and we'll come back, do a little bit of sanding, prepping it for the first primer coat. Well, while we have the other parts soaking in the Metal Rescue rust remover, we're going to take the wheels and we're going to drop them in some soapy water and let those soak a bit, and then we'll take like a toothbrush and something on a rag to kind of get all the excess dirt and grease. There's a little bit of oil on them from somebody who, probably me, that lubricated the axles and such. And it got a little bit on this this hard rubber, and then there's just 30, 40, 50 plus years of dirt on them. So we'll wash those off. Well, after about 10 minutes of soaking and 30 minutes of scrubbing, they look great. There's a little bit of chipping of the paint, but we're going to mask these off, repaint them, and then probably give them another bath so we can apply this rubber restoring compound, the Gummy Fledge Stiff, and it'll restore it to almost new condition. Well, while the wheels are drying, I took the main assembly out of the rust soak and just to neutralize the rust. As you can see, the paint is actually pretty good on this, but it's still really chipped in places. But it's still adhered well in other places, so there's no real need to chemically strip this, although you could. What I'm going to do here is just knock it down a little bit and get ready for a good primer base coat. Do this with a bunch of other ways. Here's a sanding sponge, you can do that. That'll get most of it. Little pieces of sandpaper from other projects to get into little places. You can do it with pneumatic tools or electric tools. Here's a right angle die grinder. There's a bristle disc on here. You could use a wire brush. Those are a little dangerous on tools like this. That's why I like these type of products here for doing this. Plus this won't gouge the metal. You can also use these little cross buffs. This is basically like a scuffing material. In this case it's the medium grade. And I got two different sizes here on a mandrel. This will get into little places a lot easier. just put it on the rotator tool and go to town. So there's really no wrong way to do this as long as you get it a good base knockdown, so when you put that primer coat on, it'll be nice and flat. We got all our little hand sanding done on all the little parts and pieces here. So now we're ready to mask off some of the parts we don't want to get paint on. We're going to have to do the engine compartment here because I can't really remove it. The way it's installed, it'd be difficult to reinstall it because it's just melted the plastic rivets to hold it in. Same with the steering mechanism here. I can't really separate it easily without risking damaging it, so I'm not going to do that. And then we have to mask off the rubber part of the tires to paint the rims. So that's what I'm going to get to do now. We got everything painted up. We got a couple of coats on here and it's nice and smooth. It's completely cured a couple of days. Next thing I'm going to do here before I remove masking tape is apply this product here made by Slip Plate. It's a dry graphite lubricant and kind of goes on like a paint. When it dries, it makes kind of a anti-wear coating and lubricant for these two parts that are going to slide together and wear off. And that's the reason this was really rusty when I started, and it's a little bit pitted, but I didn't really care because I knew I was going to apply this and take care of that. So that's a little extra step that I'm going to take just to make this a little more durable. Before I want to put the graphite on, I want to mask off around the edges here because I only want the graphite to be on this top part where it's going to rub on that part, and just don't want it to get on to the rest of the painted surface. Well, while these are drying, let's start unwrapping our presents. It's always like Christmas Day to see what they look like. Well, now we're down to the last one, and I gotta say, they look pretty nice. And that really is a testament to just taking your time masking these off, which I did that live, and I'll have a link to that archived live stream. But, yep, there they are. Now we can take the masking tape off that, start putting the wheels back on. Alright, got the wheels on, got everything all masked up. Take the masking tape off. This is all dry, so it's ready to go on. And it's got to be a little bit of wrestling to get the plate up in here and get these up in here. I'm sure I'm going to scratch the paint a little bit, possibly, but we'll just touch it up. But these things, these little adjusters, are going to rip the paint off anyways, so it's designed for that. So let's get to it. The last thing we got to do, put the decals on and put the new muffler on.